Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Building a Winning M365 Copilot Plan webinar with Microsoft Partner Transparity. My name is Hillary Batchelder. I'm our Professional Services Industry Director at Transparity, and it's fantastic to have you all here today. Before we begin, please note that today's session is being recorded. It'll be uploaded to our company's YouTube channel and made available on our website. If you do not wish for your audio to be included in the recording, please just stay muted and ask any questions via the chat. As we dive into today's session, I would like to take a moment to introduce you to us at Transparity. We've been leading in the M365 Copilot project delivery space, and we're absolutely here to share our expertise and energy behind this topic. More broadly, we're a pure play Microsoft partner at the forefront of the latest technology with really one simple goal. We're here to help you make the most of your cloud investment in a way that truly benefits you as an organization. So our name stands for transformation, partnership, and clarity, three values that define everything we do. We're not just about the technology, we're really about working alongside you to drive meaningful business transformation. We have a really fantastic team with deep technical expertise, a very consultative approach to map projects to you, and ultimately we help organizations move beyond outdated tech and really bringing your thinking into the modern digital era. We use strategic planning, design, and implementation. We really enable businesses to streamline operations, enhance communication, improve collaboration, and empower their workforce, all of which are part of Copilot projects, of course. And as a testament to our commitment to excellence, we hold all 6 Microsoft partner designations, Azure Expert MSP status, and several of Microsoft's advanced specializations. These are awarded only to partners with the highest levels of competency and with proven expertise. So what does that mean for you and your Copilot projects? Very practically, as you found probably with approaching M365 Copilot, these projects span across data governance and security, adoption and change management, use case discovery and technical readiness, and agent capability. Given that we have all of this expertise behind us, we excel in matching the right capability to the right clients at the right time to drive your M365 Copilot projects. So we have a fantastic agenda and speakers here for you today. You'll learn about how to get started with M365 Copilot with Ehab, who I'll hand over to in a moment. You'll learn about a real-world success story from our client Mace. We have Michael and Richard on here to share some great examples. And you'll also learn about AI agents and agentic AI from Microsoft's Graham Hosking, who's beaming in from the Microsoft office. There'll be opportunities to ask questions throughout the webinar, so really feel free to drop them into the chat. We'll be answering them as we go. And really with that, let's get started. I'll pass along to Ehab, who will dive into how to approach these projects.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hillary. If you all can hear me fine, can I get some thumbs up? Really good to see you all. I see some familiar names and people that I crossed paths with in the past, so really good to see that. Quick intro on myself. My name is Ehab. I'm the Copilot and AI Principal Architect at Transparity. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in Advanced Content Management. And what an exciting and interesting journey it's been working with Copilot for the past few months. If I think about Copilot and reflect back, I don't recall working with a technology that got so much excitement from the knowledge worker and everyday business user. And on the tech side, maybe we get excited about features and backend capabilities that gets rolled out by Microsoft. But Copilot has been really a change where you see the knowledge worker get excited about saving time, doing their tasks, and get these hours back to them. So the way we approach this is that it's not a cookie cutter approach. There isn't a template that gets applied to every organization. Every organization is different. The business culture is different. Your technical debt is different. The way you set up is different. And we acknowledge that from the very start when we work with our clients, whether through a Microsoft funded program or a direct engagement to help you onboard into M365 Copilot. So Copilot really is not only a technology project, it's a business transformation project, it's an upskilling project. It's got different variables with it that really need to be planned for and addressed to ensure that we have a successful rollout. So we look into the foundation, the best practices, understand the challenges that you had in the past, what's been working for you, what are the initiatives that you've started initially in the past that have been successful and maybe that haven't succeeded because of challenges that you have, whether it's technical or whether due to business challenges. So I go to the next slide. We approach this from multiple lenses. One, the technical element, the business user focused element, and also the backend element where it comes to governance, compliance, AI readiness. And we found where all these different aspects work together within the same program, within the same project, this is the best recipe for success because you're not overlooking an aspect over the other. Because give me thumbs up if you had this in your organization where, you know, someone in the team watches something about Copilot on YouTube or attended a seminar. Oh, we love Copilot. Let's get a license and let's get started. Let's jump into it. But I wish it was as simple as that. We all hope there are other elements that need to be considered to ensure your investment in Copilot gives you the best return on investment and you are set up for success. So the way we form our team when we do the Copilot engagements is that we have a technical leadership, an architect, principal architect, consultant to ensure the program runs in accordance with Microsoft best practices and also our own Transparity best practices. Also ACM, the adoption and change management element, to work closely with the user, to work closely with the business, guide them, have drop-in sessions, speak to them, listen to the challenges they have, and how Copilot can be introduced and embedded in the everyday tasks that these teams work on. And also we have a dedicated project manager, and this is really essential. So if you've onboarded on Copilot or started the project, I'm sure you come across the all different spectrum of variables and change in Copilot. As you go deeper into it, the more you uncover, the more change you have to do. So hence we decided that every engagement will have a dedicated PM, manage the process, work with the client, have that agile approach, and have the ongoing comms going on between all the people involved in this endeavor. And also, just to add to that, really, from your side, from the organization and the business, we also recommend for you to have that mindset and involvement, the different elements from the business, and not only have the technical leadership, but also get business leaders, executive sponsors to be behind the project and give you the support that you need for this kind of a transformation, really, like I said earlier. So we speak to you, we have discovery sessions, we do assessment as well. So if you have a technical team, we will work with them to understand where you are today, what kind of technical debt you might have, where your data is sitting, what's your governance requirement. Are you an organization that works globally, where you have different types of information that needs to be accessed by different people? So with Copilot, before that, you might have got away, for example, with not the best SharePoint permission best practices. You might have got away with that, you know, with people not using search. But now, once you have Copilot in, with all the amazing things you can do and the amount you can save and the automation, if you have weaknesses and vulnerabilities with your permissions and compliance, that information will be surfaced to the wrong people. But that being said, if you've done your homework, And if you configured your permissions, your compliance, and understand your business requirements, Copilot will adhere exactly to that and surface the right information to the people who have access to it. So if your organization allows someone to see a given document, Copilot will give it back to them. If they're not allowed to see it, they will not be able to see it. So that will take us into a long journey, and I'll share with you in a couple of slides, because Copilot, we believe, should be a proof of concept, step by step, and not go with a big rollout without having these step and readiness put in order before you get into the deployment side of things. So when we speak to you, when we understand where you are and understand your personas and business, we will help you to figure out, okay, where should we start? Who are the best candidates? Who's got the data that's suitable to start with? So what happens is you have a parallel approach where you're already preparing your champions, you're already preparing your use cases, and you are already seeing how Copilot can help you in these business challenges that you have. But at the same time, we are working on your compliance, we are working on your governance, we are putting plans, changes in place before you go wider to the business and roll out Copilot. And the group that you start with, your pilots and your champions, will be the ambassadors to take that learnings, exchange knowledge, and be ambassadors across the business. The role of champions is really important. One, they feel involved. They feel they're part of the transformation. They feel their feedback is heard. And also, they will learn step by step. So the way we do the training and upskilling, for example, we take it like, from zero to hero. This is what Copilot can do for you. Experiment, try these things, and then we upskill. This is how you can take it with advanced prompts. This is how much you can get back from Copilot, working with your data, working with your Excel, and then even we go further by training the trainer. Now you are actually able to go and pass the knowledge, because all the investment you do and all the upskilling that you do within the business, you need to think about retaining that for future success of Copilot. So it's a journey. It's not one sprint. It's a growth. You start with Copilot, but also you think about more advanced processes in the future. And as we work with you, we get you to be in a position where you can consider the more advanced cases. So Copilot really is your productivity assistant to help you with your everyday work. But from that point onwards, you may want to think about the business processes and have agents that can help your staff to run particular processes. Could be onboarding, could be getting a new client on board, that where you have different actions and different features kick in through your agent. So you have the productivity element, and then you have the business process, a specific element. So it's a journey, and there is a prep that need to be done in place, both from your governance side of things, your technical readiness, but also your staff and business. And I think this is my time. I hope you found my segment helpful and useful, and I'll pass back to Hilary. Hilary, over to you.
Amazing, Ehab. Thanks so much. Really great kind of foundation of how to approach these projects. And it's just fantastic to kind of hear more about our approach and how you really help it come to life with our clients. So to pivot over to how that does come to life, I'd like to introduce Michael Dixon and Richard McGonigal from Mace, who we've been working with on their Copilot project. So with that, I'll stop sharing slides, and we're going to just have kind of our faces pop up so that we'll do a little bit of a fireside chat and share some great best practices that they've learned from their deployment. So as a little bit of a background, we've been working with you all at Mace on your M365 Copilot deployment in earnest really since January. You kind of came to us at the end of November with a goal to deploy and light up 1,000 licenses across the organization. Much of this was spearheaded by both of you, so it's fantastic to have you on the call as part of this webinar, and thanks for sharing your best practices. So Thanks so much for joining us. And I definitely want to start off with a little bit about Mace and what you do. So what does Mace do, and what has been each of your roles within this project?
Hi, Hillary. Hi, everybody. Great to be here. A little bit about Mace. Mace is a global consultancy and construction firm. We work across various different sectors like infrastructure, commercial, residential, retail. And our goal as an organization is to shape the cities, the communities of the future by delivering top-notch projects and services. Innovation, sustainability, efficiency are all at the heart of what we do. A little bit about my role. I work within the digital team at Mace, and within digital, I'm responsible for shaping and the delivery of all of our new technology projects, including Copilot, together with the business change activity.
Thanks, Richard. Michael, I too am part of the digital team with responsibility for our technology strategies, platforms, and solutions across the group. My focus is on ensuring that these remain fit for purpose and adaptable in an environment where agility is increasingly critical.
Absolutely. Very impressive. You all started by deploying Copilot to a smaller group of users. So what did you learn from that initial rollout?
We learned a lot, Hillary. Starting small allowed us to gather valuable insights and feedback. It helped us to identify the challenges earlier on and refine our approach before scaling up. The user engagement and feedback were crucial for successful adoption. And from a technical perspective, it was a valuable opportunity to closely monitor that early usage, the system performance, and user interactions, which allowed us to identify the key areas for improvement, particularly around the integration, user experience, deployment, and probably most importantly, adoption.
Absolutely. And speaking of adoption, your CEO and CIO were heavily involved in this initiative, which really supported and kind of gave additional energy to the program. How did their leadership influence your approach?
Yeah, that's right, Hillary. Our CEO, Mark, our CIO, Michelle, provided a clear vision, a clear direction from the beginning. And of course, that helped align the entire organization with the project's goals. Their sponsorship, their involvement throughout the project to make sure that we had the right commitment to succeed. So we could prioritize this project, we could allocate the necessary resources and people. And it also made the collaboration across the departments, which is essential for this sort of initiative, much smoother, made sure that everybody was pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, that kind of began our engagement with you all when you then decided to deploy M365 Copilot licenses for 1,000 users pretty quickly, which necessitated an adoption and change program. So how did you manage that when they kind of gave you that buy-in and were asking you about next steps?
Well, we really took a project mindset. So we treated this as a change project, which it is. So it was about structured planning, coordination. We set up a dedicated project team. So we had representation, Michael and myself from digital, our internal marketing and comms department, learning and development, and of course, Transparity. Hillary, Ehab, and the team were there to support us through the journey. We put standard governance meetings in place, so we had a check-in 3 times per week, so short and sweet, but it kept the energy and the progress moving. We also created an early adopters Viva Engage community, and this forum was really helpful in making sure we advertised the new training sessions that were coming, but also to get the new Copilot users sharing their tips and their learning. So all of that helped drive us forward.
Yeah, it was amazing to see the community lighting up in real time as the rollout was going on. So that was a really fun element to all of it. But then, yeah, from a business point of view, how did you justify acquiring those 1,000 licenses? So what factors really influenced that decision?
Well, we did build a formal business case, as we would with any new investment. So we looked at benefits such as productivity gains, the savings per minutes per day, efficiency improvements, so streamlining processes, also some of the softer benefits like work-life balance and reducing out of hours working. But I would say, in addition to that, really the decision was driven from our leadership's confidence in generative AI and the opportunities that opens up. So it was a big leap of faith into the world of generative AI and the opportunities that presents.
Absolutely. And yeah, the leap of faith, I think we can only take those leaps when we are secure in our sense of governance and compliance. So how did you ensure that was there for the leap of faith to be taken?
I'd say so governance and compliance were key priorities throughout the initiative. We established comprehensive policies and procedures to assure alignment with industry standards and any regulatory requirements. Expanding the use of our current tooling was implemented to support the auditability and consistent usage tracking, with the ability to run regular audits and ongoing monitoring, helping us to maintain compliance. To safeguard sensitive data, we implemented robust security measures and access controls. And additionally, we provided training on best practice for data handling and usage, just ensuring the users clearly understood their responsibility when using the tooling.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's definitely best practice. And thanks for sharing. So yeah, we've talked a little bit about our partnership and us entering into this program. But yeah, why did you choose Transparity for the project? Did you think about other vendors? Were you evaluating other solutions?
We did look at a couple of alternatives, as you would expect. Ultimately, we were looking for a partner that had that specialty in Microsoft solutions and had helped to deliver Copilot training initiatives multiple times before successfully, but also with similar sized organizations. And I think from the first conversation we had with Transparity, I would say that you understood what we were looking for really quickly. You were willing to flex the approach, so you listened as well. And it was very pragmatic, and it helps us to deliver at speed. So we had some really aggressive timeframes to work to make sure we maximize the investment. The other key factor, I would say, is the cultural fit, the chemistry. So we liked the style of Transparity and the team members. So you were all fun to work with, and it was a happy experience, I would say, and that counts for a lot.
And I'll just add in there from a technical perspective, Transparity's technical capabilities and just understanding of our needs was really important. Their team worked closely with us just to ensure a general seamless integration and deployments, just addressing any technical challenges as we head along this journey.
Oh, that's really great to hear. And thanks for your trust in us. It's been a really exciting initiative to support and ultimately a lot of fun. One of my favorite stats is how, as part of this program, you engaged over 800 people in the initial training session kickoff, including visible members of the leadership team, which was fantastic to see. How do you think you generated that high level of engagement so early on into the program?
Yeah, as you say, we were really delighted to see 800 out of the 1,000. I can quite vividly remember that launch call. Certainly helped us focus with all of the senior leadership team on there. I would say that level of participation was partly down to the commitment and the message sent from our CEO top down about the importance of the investment. Also about the curiosity that people have around AI, and Copilot feels like a nice, easy entry point to the world of AI, which can be intimidating. But a lot of it, I think, was just down to the energy and the excitement we tried to inject to make people feel that if they weren't on board, they were perhaps missing out. And that really did seem to pay off.
And I suppose from my perspective, we also just ensured that the training content was relevant and accessible. We did various formats like live sessions, recorded videos, hands-on workshops catering to generally all the different learning preferences. And what else is the continuous feedback and iterative improvements just help to maintain a high level of engagement.
Yeah, fantastic. And it was really cool to see how such a mix of, frontline workers, office workers, everyone kind of engaging from their standpoint in this new technology. So yeah, fantastic to see and experience. And then final question for you guys. I was just wondering what the future roadmap looks like for you all in terms of AI, digital transformation, and your overall journey.
Well, on the Copilot side, as you said, we have 1,000 licenses that we've committed to for this year. We are looking at Microsoft's Viva Analytics capability, which helps us track the usage and also puts a framework around the time savings and productivity we're seeing. So the plan is to use that to generate the business case for the next 1,000 and really build from there. In parallel with this, we are working on some other AI initiatives. So we're doing a piece around a bid response tool at the moment. So Copilot, I think, has given us the confidence and the platform to really start opening the door into AI, and it's a really exciting time to be a technology professional right now.
Yeah, and I think just to add technically to that, we're also exploring advanced AI apps and integrations just to support general day-to-day roles and tasks. And continuous innovation and adaptation is key for us as we move forward, just ensuring that we're staying ahead and agile in our digital transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing. It's been a fantastic project that it's just been really amazing to see from just a few licenses that you had deployed to the 1,000 and then what you're going to do and accomplish beyond that. So just thanks so much for sharing your learnings with this cohort on this webinar, and excited for what you have in store.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, to transition over to our next topic, we did talk a little bit about continuous innovation, adaptation, and a huge part of that is, as we've seen, adding agents into this ecosystem. And for that, we'll have Graham start to present on agents, and I will present the PowerPoint in Teams, and then Graham will take over and give us the latest and greatest with agents and how to deploy them.
That sounds good to me. Thank you, Hilary. Just to say thank you very much to the Transparity team for having me today. Awesome as well to hear from Richard and Michael from Mace about how they're staying ahead with their digital transformation. We're going to switch gears, definitely. We're going to talk more around kind of demystifying agentic AI and how it can help you with your business process, actually using agents. So how do we make this real? And we've got a bit of an agenda. If I pick the right slide, here we go, is we're going to talk about what it means around the differences of generative AI and agents. So you've probably seen this definitely from Microsoft about us talking about agents and Copilot being everywhere. And Microsoft truly believes that everyone should be empowered by generative AI in the workplace. And Copilot for everyone and agents definitely there to transform business process. So agents can mean many, many different things, but it's all around the instructions you're giving it, talking about repeatable processes, making sure it's a specialist within your organization. So I have a lot of conversations with my customers where they want an agent that's able to answer legal questions on behalf of non-legal people within the business that take away that headache from them. But how do we really make this real in using agentic AI? So let's dive into this. When we're talking about agents, there's all kinds of shapes and sizes that come with this. So the fact that we have to kind of broaden our mindsets a little bit, just like what Mace was just talking about, is we need to think of the types of solutions that agents will solve for us. So today you might be thinking about agents often in addressing existing problems or being able to optimize things a little bit further. But as we move into the future, we're going to start seeing not just IT-led innovation, but also end-user-led innovation, where people are able to solve localized problems or solve small business processes with agents a lot faster and iterative along the way as well. So it's just going to make it better and better. We're also going to see a lot of org-wide transformation into these new technologies as well. So we're going to have new problems as we do with new technology. So how are we going to address those fundamental changes to make sure that our businesses grow as well? So basically, think of agent development as it not being the same as it is today. It's going to mature over time. And the expectation is we're going to have billions of agents that are all going to be specialized within our certain business process or within our certain specialisms as we run our organizations. And what does this look like today? So what I have on the screen here is like a traditional business automation process. And the reason why I wanted to start here is this is very different to how autonomous agents work. They can work together, but the difference is a business process is very well structured. So it's a process that it's very well defined. You probably have like Boolean conditions or if conditions. So if this, then do that. And this is a very rigid process. And these are the kind of typical processes that businesses run through today. But with autonomous agents, these work very, very differently, but they can work hand in hand as well. And when we talk about that, we talk about autonomous agents where this is less of a scripted process, but you're able to give a set of instructions and allow the AI to decide what are the tools that it has available to it in order to perform a specific business process for you. And again, this is iterative, as it may collect information on behalf of that end user or part of that process, and then think about how can I reuse that information in order to achieve the goal. And you can interact with these agents in multiple different ways. So it could be a human in the loop, as in a human is speaking to HR, for example, to retrieve some information. Or it could be headless in the fact that you've received an email as part of your business, maybe it's customer services, and you're able to understand what the nuance is of the question, being able to retrieve that knowledge from your internal resources and be able to provide that answer back. We can also have structured processes as well, by the way, but this is where it's confusing. Lots of conversations with my customers at the moment, where some organizations do need to have that structured process, but they also want to be able to use generative AI and agents in order to have a more robust and scalable solution going forward. But we can define the guardrails around that as well. Agents come in all different sizes, I said in the very beginning. So you might start off with retrieval agents. So that's gathering knowledge from your internal knowledge bases or retrieving information as part of your website. But then we can combine that with task-based actions as well. So you're able to perform an action like send an email on behalf of that customer, or start and kick off another process, right up to autonomous agents, which is either headless, like I said, or it could be a non-spoken trigger, or part of the process to do a more complex process or workflow behind the scenes in order to achieve the goal. Now, I do only have a short amount of time with you today, and we can go a lot deeper into this, but this is the autonomy of an agent. So think of the orchestrator as the brain. So the sets of instructions you're going to give it the guardrails and decide what is the best set of tools it needs to go away and use. But we can also use a number of different skills. That could be using custom connectors and using APIs to go and get external information outside of the Microsoft ecosystem to enrich that response or that process for you, or even call other agents. Now, there's a lot of aspects and different tools that we can give an agent. So it could be that it's driven on a conversation or has some specific behavior behind the scenes. We can use other components, for example, to publish into other areas. So these agents aren't just necessarily internal use, but they could be published to your corporate website, or they could be used through WhatsApp, for example. We have lots of different kind of capabilities that we can surface this back up to anyone that needs this agentic AI. I also talked about knowledge, but also skills, being able to call other agents, other specialized agents to bring in that type of service. And then in the future, you'll start to see things like browser use, especially if you're a frontline worker, being able to understand what's on your screen and being able to reason over that and have task-driven actions off the back of it is where we're heading. So AI to actually help you do your day-to-day job. And they came in main or autonomous agents come in two main different areas. So these based on triggers. So these are the main areas where you're going to initiate the agent. And again, that could be non-spoken, or when something happens, you want to retrieve that information, give it to the orchestrator to understand what it needs to achieve. And that could be follow up on emails, or it could be escalate to a human being in order to collect that relevant information. And the other half of autonomous agents is the planner. So think of the planner as the generative AI model behind the scenes, the LLM, the large language model, to really figure out from the plan what it needs to execute alongside your instructions and your guardrails. And those instructions are provided by you. So they're predetermined, but these autonomous agents have the flexibility and understand all the different tools that they can use to perform the right tasks. And what does this look like at a higher level? So it could be the trigger, this light bulb that we've got on the screen here, really understands what actions to take. So it could be that it understands how to execute that plan from the knowledge or the topics, and actually driving the conversation or the actions it has access to. And once it gets that information, it can actually generate a response. Now, that response could be delivering that back to the end user, but we can reuse that information back into the planner to understand where it needs to go away and collect next. And this is very different to that business process, that kind of traditional way of thinking when I first started around how we collect information, reason over that information, and then perform multiple series of tasks. And some examples of that is a bit like this I've got on the screen, which is around HR. So it could be an employee or a HR related trigger happens. That orchestrator, that brain, that planner understands what it has access to, and that could be a series of connectors reaching out to things like SharePoint or ServiceNow or approvals process or other databases in your line of business applications, and be able to understand, well, is that the right information I need to collect? Does it need to be formatted in a certain way? And then being able to provide that either to the HR representative or even back to the employee that was asking the question. And this process is iterative, like I said. So at the very bottom here, and apologies for how small it is, but the very bottom here might be a really structured process that you need to follow. But as mentioned, like the business process is very static. These bottom elements need to be in place already or predetermined. But combining that with autonomous agents, it can decide for itself what path to take, even taking data and then kind of pulling that back and deciding, now I need something else. I'm going to go away, collect that information. So it's more dynamic. You can build in newer processes. It doesn't have to be structured like before, and we can complete steps to complete the plan in various different ways. It doesn't have to follow that step 1. It could jump to step 4 if that's what's going to bring the information back in a more strategic way. Just kind of wrapping up for me really is there's lots of aspects to how agents and generative AI comes about, but we can modernize our processes now. We can be a bit more dynamic with business process, far over than what we did before. And all the detail is in the one plan. We can call multiple agents, like I said. We can scale this to our stakeholders as well. So I talked about HR or external facing services for customers. I'm working with a customer at the moment to do pothole collection. So a member of the public can upload a picture of their pothole. We can use generative AI to reason over the data that's within that picture, even extract the metadata about the geolocation of that, and then collect a series of information from the end user in order to resolve that issue going forward. For structured processes, just finishing up very, very quickly, we can use generative AI to have a natural language conversation. And if you need those structured or rigid processes, you can now use generative AI as part of that agent flows to create a static flow for you. And again, we can have this as an iterative conversation, and we can add elements in to structured processes as well. Just before I hand over to Denham, I just want to say thank you very much for your time today. I hope you're enjoying it so far. If you haven't signed up already for Microsoft Build, that's between the 19th and the 22nd of May. So very, very soon, there's going to be some key announcements there you want to keep an eye on. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
That's great. Thanks, Graham. Really great insights there into the world of agents. A lot to it, a lot to unpick, a lot more you probably could have said as well. I know you've got a lot of content that probably didn't make the cut for today's session. So if anyone needs follow up on that, there's a lot more where that came from essentially. And I just want to look back now to some of the questions that were posted in the chat. So if I just scroll up to the first one there from Stephen around how does a Gen AI project compare to a typical sort of technology change project? Ehab, is that one that you're happy to answer?
Well, they share a lot of similarities really in knowing who your audience are, what are you working with, what are you looking to achieve. I think with the AI-based projects, you are working with a multitude of different variables that you need to address working with that, covering from the compliance, the business processes. And to be honest with you, working with AI projects, what we find is the number one finding that we come across is the business process itself, and how much the AI-based discovery helps the organization to reassess, revisit, improve, and see what the bottlenecks are. So for example, you typically may get a question, I get a lot of attachments in my email. How can Copilot help me? Yeah, yes, Copilot can help you, but the underlying question is, why are you getting a lot of attachments in email? So you end up covering different aspects for the business and the practices they do to help them be in a good position for AI. I don't know, Graham, if you have a point to add on that question from your side.
Yeah, I think it's like any technology, you need to understand that is that technology going to be the best use for those specific use cases. Like last week, I was in person with one of my customers. We had 50 or 60 people in a room, and it was a hackathon. So we thought about all of the different problems they had today, basically rated them on a rate card, saying whether they were like really complex, we need to spend a bit of time, a bit of money to fix that issue. But what were the things that were kind of light to touch, things that take a lot of time but are repeatable, and building those into agents? So we had a number, I think we had 19 different use cases from that hackathon about how we could drive the business forward using technology. And that was things like understanding finances, or we were talking about product control and things going missing, like how do you keep an eye on those things and reuse the knowledge that that organization has got access to, but then surface that up through agentic processes that way. So yeah, it's like any other technology. It's not going to come easy. You have to work hard to it, but think of those kind of low-hanging fruit first of all, and then think of more complex things. That's why we started off with the retrieval agents, the tasks and actions, and then fully autonomous. Those are kind of the steps that you're going to go through.
Yeah, perfect. And just to add to that, from what I see speaking to customers, it's really a challenging business case to write compared to traditional IT projects where the metrics are fairly known, and also just the pace of innovation from the Microsoft side. So keeping up with the tech and what it can do is, you could build a 12-month roadmap for a transformation project, but it will probably change very quickly.
Yeah, we've got new things being developed all the time, not just from Microsoft, but all of the tech companies as well. So even I struggle to keep up. There's a new thing every week. But that's what I'm saying. If you keep an eye on these bigger announcements from our big events, and especially from Transparity as well, like we're up to speed about kind of what's coming and where the strategies lie. But think of those kind of business strategies first before like jumping into the technology. That's what I would recommend.
Awesome. Just looking into the questions there, there's another one around the Frontier Firms report that came out. Graham, I don't know if you spotted that one. You know, Magic 8 Ball, what do you see the future of that sort of org structure with AI agents embedded into that?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. Like you see that within the AI space at the moment, and that's the trajectory that we're all heading towards. So think of this as kind of facilitating the business. So if you've got heads of roles that are specialized in those certain areas, rather than going to those individuals, it might be reusing the knowledge that they already have. So agents are going to be there for that. But also if you're kind of facilitating some of your customer asks, like what could generative AI and agents do on behalf of that? Like you're starting to see this with consumer products at the moment. Like if you've gone to a website today and had a chat and it's doing a pretty good job at understanding your issue and what the problem is, and it's giving you the right answers, that's probably where they're using generative AI in the background in order to do that. Rather than the traditional way is as long as you ask the right question, you would get the right answer. So they're doing a lot better a job around that. I think from the futures point of view, I think there's going to be a mixture of fully autonomous agents, but also knowing when to escalate to a human being for that human touch as well. So that's where we are sort of I say in the near short term, but these things change yearly, you know, and there's big announcements, big models that have more capabilities. So we'll all have to watch this space.
Nice.
Absolutely. And just to add to that also, Dylan, to add to what Graham mentioned, I like seeing that direction that we are going in specialization, to have agents doing specific tasks, specific functions, working with larger data volumes, especially with researcher and analysts that are coming through. We're seeing high demand from our clients to work with that type of agent, which is really good to see. And the challenge we have as a partner is always, like Graham said, is to keep on top of all the updates and understand what the market is, what Microsoft is adding, and pair that with the business strategy and the business needs that we discover working with the client.
Yeah, there's some key announcements as well that happened over the last couple of weeks. So if you're up to date with generative AI, you've probably heard of MCP, which is Model Context Protocol. So you can think of this as like the Swiss Army knife of APIs, but you don't have to tell it exactly what tools it's got access to. It's able to look in the back end and retrieve that information dynamically for you as well. So as those line of business applications change or other integrations that you need as part of that process change, it automatically and dynamically is updating as well. And I guess the other cool thing, as I did mention very briefly, are things like computer use and browser use as well. So like I'm in front of a laptop now, there's nothing stopping us, the technology we have today, to reason over what I have in front of me and be able to give suggestions about how I might work better. It could read the transcript. You know, we've got capabilities like this today, like Copilot and Facilitator, just to make meetings and things that I do on a daily basis more impactful and meaningful as well.
Yeah, that's great. Just another question in the chat that I kind of missed, Gary. Sorry, I've just seen it there. Is the examples of what Copilot's managed to action for you and how it's progressed from startup to now. And that there's lots of examples that we can give there, Gary. It's one of those that really it comes down to what is the best use case for you that's going to give you the best use of your time to develop that use case, but also the business impact is going to be there for everybody to see. It can go into your ROI calculation. There's a bunch of scenarios up on the Microsoft scenario library as part of the sort of envisioning workshop that we do with clients. It's really getting all those ideas on a page. We almost take the technology out of that initial conversation and really focus on what is the business problem we're trying to solve for. That then lets us overlay the right technology, because there's various variations of this, and hopefully you'll get a more meaningful use case rather than trying to replicate something that somebody's done over here, but maybe not necessarily adding that value that you would look for. Perfect. Okay. One other question that we always get asked, it's around Microsoft funding. Hilary, if people are trying to start a project for Copilot, how would they go about knowing what funding they can claim for from Microsoft and get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, simple answer, reach out to us and we can check if you're eligible. So we have a fantastic partnerships team that manages our Microsoft partnership. And basically, because as we said at the beginning, we are eligible across so many Microsoft pots, we can basically support you in determining which funding pot to leverage and when, and make sure that to our point, it maps back to your trajectory, what you're looking to achieve. So yeah, reach out and happy to have initial conversations.
Awesome.
And then one other one that we get asked a lot is, how to even get started with Copilot. And maybe Denham, you could just talk through the initial engagements that we include as part of our delivery. So what are those sessions? What should organizations look at as part of those sessions, and how do they help them just start to formulate what the best plan is for them?
Yeah, no, of course. So obviously the funding engagements are there to help do that enablement of your Copilot rollout plan. What we do at Transparity is have sort of 3 upfront workshops that are separate to the funded engagement. We put a lot of effort in with the sales team and your own teams to really understand your technical readiness. So that's a session for your admins, your data governance teams to really understand the current posture, any potential blockers you may have, anything that we need to prioritize as a next phase of building out your data maturity. That allows us to get up to speed with what you've done so far, where you're at, and really just help add to your plan rather than kind of starting from scratch. The second is an adoption and change workshop. So that is really focusing on the user impact of how we roll these licenses out to people. Who do we select for a license? Do we put it out as a questionnaire? Do we look at some of the usage data that we have in Defender to see who's currently using generative AI? Do we earmark those? How do we select a champions group? Have we had a champions group in the past and maybe it's failed and we need to sort of pivot on that and come up with something a little bit more nuanced? So a lot of questions and a lot of sort of pre-work goes into that plan. That gets us into a point where we can just then execute against that plan with the funding that's available from Microsoft. The third session that overarches all of that is just that AI strategy. Kind of heard from Mace earlier how having the exec buy-in and that clear vision does really help a in-the-weeds Copilot project. So making sure that what we deliver in our training sessions resonates with the business values and the business objectives for AI as a whole is it's kind of where we get to. So we've got those three sort of initial sessions before we get into maybe it's the first time deploying Copilot, or maybe you've got 100 licenses, you want to up to 1,000, or maybe you've got 50 but it's stagnant. There's various sort of forms that these come in, and we can help wherever you need it.
Denham, I hope you don't mind. There was a question in the chat as well from Stephen. I just wanted to address live, just because it's a very common question that I get on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis. And he's saying that there's lots of integrations from Microsoft Stack. Like, when do we use what? And I think it really goes back to kind of the strategy, the business requirements, and the scenarios that you're trying to address. Like, don't use technology for technology's sake. I've seen a lot of organizations that are using a lot of Azure services just because that's where they started out, because there wasn't anything from a Microsoft Copilot Studio point of view back then. But we're having those conversations about, well, those processes you built over there, do we bring that in? Do we make it easier? Like, we need less skills within that sort of no to low code area in order to facilitate the business. And in some cases, they do need to be complex use cases where you're going to use things like the Teams toolkit, you're going to use the semantic kernel, you're going to use some Azure services, just because that's what the use case in the scenario requires. Like, I've got some customers that want to use fine-tuned models in AI Foundry. I'm like, yeah, you can do that, but you can also use the orchestration, that brain, that plan I talked about in the very beginning in Copilot Studio, and then use Power Platform or Power Automate to actually call out to those sets of services as well. So kind of bring it back, like business discussion, what are we trying to achieve, what's the end goal, and then map that back to the technology, because there's lots of capabilities in the stack, I agree.
It's exactly that. And we were having this conversation recently where if you think about how traditionally you would sort of assess tooling that's coming into the organization, the typical governance that you would do around that, that can all apply here. So do I lean into the third-party AI because it's built into the tool, or do I create something myself because I've got a license? There's going to be multiple factors to that, and it will come down to whether you've got the capability to build, support, manage, govern, license cost. Maybe you're going to get help from a partner. So that there's no one answer. It is really try and focus in on your overall technology strategy and keep that in your mind when you're making those decisions.
Exactly. Yeah. If you need to have an agent that reasons over SharePoint, create a SharePoint agent. So it really depends. Sorry, Hilary.
Absolutely. And that's a fantastic pivot to our call to action. So I don't know if Graham saw that, but yeah, essentially a fantastic way to dig into agents specifically is coming in person to our upcoming Agent-a-thon. So that's going to be on the 17th of June. We will be there from Transparity. Graham will be there, not beaming in. He'll be there live. And so that's a fantastic time to really dig into some of these questions and really determine the right pathway for the different use cases, as we've been saying. Next call to action is another pretty simple one, is sign up for a free one-to-one call with one of our amazing account managers. And yeah, poll on the screen as well. And so that will be really specific to you, so we can review your company's needs, discuss funding. For example, there's Copilot funding, there's Copilot Studio funding. We can help you figure out what's best for you and when. And we'll really just talk over next steps. So that's a nice customized follow-up for you. And yeah, to request that session, there's the poll that's live, or you can email contact@transparity.com. So yeah, hopefully you got a sense of how to approach these Copilot projects, real world examples, what's happening now with agents. And ultimately, I think my guidance for you all is, when you're thinking about a partner, think about all that is encompassing as part of Copilot projects. So they span from adoption and change management into Copilot Studio, into Azure. So you want to make sure that you're in a good set of hands throughout that experience. And that's really what we do our best to provide. So thanks so much to everyone for attending this session. Thanks to everyone for asking questions. Please feel free to follow up and connect with any of us on LinkedIn as suits you. And ultimately have a fantastic rest of the afternoon, and hope to continue these conversations with each of you as we continue on.